All throughout history, many ancient cultures believed the Earth was actually hollow. And more recently, the Nazi Germans and their esoteric Thule Society as well believed that the Earth was hollow. The hollow Earth hypothesis holds that the Earth is not a solid sphere, but is hollow and has openings at the poles. Now, you may say that this sounds absolutely crazy and nuts, but is there scientific evidence out there to support this, that the Earth is hollow? Ronaldo de Azevedo in his Physical Geography wrote as follows about the mysterious world below our feet, concerning which scientists know nothing beyond a few miles in profundity, entertaining only theories, hypotheses, and conjectures to hide their ignorance. Quote, "We have below our feet an immense region whose radius is 6,290 kilometers, which is completely unknown, challenging the conceit and competence of scientists." End quote. Azevedo's statement is absolutely true. Scientists to this very date have penetrated only a few miles inside of the Earth, and what lies further down they don't really know anything about. The scientists depend only on conjectures, guesses, and suppositions. The total surface of the Earth is 197 million square miles and is estimated to weigh 6 sextillion tons. If the Earth was a solid sphere, its weight would be much greater. This is one among other scientific evidences of the fact that the Earth has a hollow interior. The belief in the Earth having a fiery center probably arose from the fact that the deeper one penetrates into the Earth, the warmer it gets. But it is a far-fetched assumption to suppose that this increase of temperature continues until the center of the Earth. There is no evidence to support this view. It is more probable that the increase in temperature continues only until we reach a level where the volcanic lava and earthquakes originate, probably due to the existence of much radioactive substances there. But after we pass through this layer of maximum heat, there's no reason why it should not get cooler and cooler as we get nearer to the center of the Earth. Most hollow Earth advocates believe that the truest conception of the structure of the Earth is based on the idea that when it was in a molten state during its formation, centrifugal force caused the heavier substances to be thrown outward towards its periphery in the form of rocks, metals to form the outer crust, leaving the interior hollow with openings at the pole where centrifugal force was less and where there was less tendency to throw metal outwards, which was greater at the equator, causing the bulging of the Earth in this region. Thus, if the Earth was originally a ball of fire and molten metal, some of this fire remained in the center, while centrifugal force as a result of its rotation on its axis caused its solid matter to be thrown towards the surface, forming a solid crust and leaving the interior hollow with a fiery ball in its center, forming a central sun which provides illumination for plant and animal and human life within the planet. One of the very first people to present this theory of the Earth being hollow with openings at its poles was American thinker William Reed, author of the book Phantom of the Poles, published in 1906. He wrote, quote, "The Earth is hollow, the poles so long sought are phantoms, there are openings at the northern and southern extremities, in the interior are vast continents, oceans, mountains, and rivers. Vegetable and animal life are evident in this new world, and it is probably peopled by races unknown to dwellers of the Earth's surface," end quote. Reed claims that the poles cannot be discovered because the Earth is hollow at its pole points, which exist in mid-air due to the existence there of polar openings leading to its interior. When explorers thought that they reached the pole, they were misled by the eccentric behavior of the compass in high latitudes, north and south. Reed claims that this happened in the case of Peary and Cook, neither of whom really reached the North Pole. Starting at 70 to 75 degrees north and south latitude, the Earth starts to curve in. The pole is simply the outer rim of the magnetic circle around the polar opening. As the Earth turns on its axis, the motion is gyroscopic, like the spinning of a top. The outer gyroscopic pole is a magnetic circle of the rim of the polar opening. Beyond the rim, the Earth flattens and slopes gradually towards its hollow interior. The true pole is the exact center of the opening of the poles, which consequently do not really exist, and those who claim to have discovered them did not tell the truth, even if they thought they did, having been misled by the irregular action of the compass at high altitude. It is well known that the north and south magnetic poles do not coincide with geographical poles, as they should were the Earth a solid sphere convex at its poles. The reason why the magnetic and geographical poles don't coincide is because, while the magnetic pole lies along the rim of the polar opening, the geographical poles lie in the center, in midair, and not on solid land. The true magnetic pole is not on the external rim of the polar openings, but the center of the Earth's crust, which should be about 400 miles below the surface and running around the polar openings. For this reason, the needle of the compass still continues to point vertically downward after one passes the rim of the polar opening and penetrates into it. Only after passing its center would the needle of the compass start pointing upward instead of downward. But in either case, after reaching the rim of the polar opening, the compass no longer functions horizontally as previously, but vertically. This has been observed by all Arctic explorers who have reached high latitudes and puzzled them. One explanation for this is provided on the conception of the hollow Earth and the polar openings, with the magnetic pole in the center of the gravity in the middle of the Earth's crust and not in its geometrical center. As a result, ocean water on the inside of the crust adheres to its inner surface just as it does on the outside. We may calculate the Earth's magnetic pole and center of gravity as a circular line around the polar opening, but in its middle, about 400 miles from the Earth's surface. In support of the hollow Earth theory conception regarding the magnetic pole being situated on the rim of the polar opening, there are some interesting facts to take a look at. Between each magnetic pole around the Earth pass magnetic meridians. In contrast with geographical meridians, which measure longitude, the magnetic meridians move from east to west and back again. The difference between the geographical meridians, or true north and south, and the direction in which the magnetic compass points, or the magnetic meridian of the place, is called the declination. The first observation was made in London in 1580 and showed an easterly declination of 11 degrees. In 1815, the declination reached 24.3 degrees westerly maximum. This makes a difference of 35.3 degrees change in over 235 years, which is equal to 2,118 miles. Now, if we make a circle around the pole with a radius of 1,059 miles, so that it is 2,118 miles in diameter, this would present the rim of the polar opening, along which, in this case, the north magnetic pole traveled from one point to its diametrically opposite point on the circle 2,118 miles away in just 235 years. This is the reason why the magnetic pole and the geographical pole do not coincide. The geographic pole is an extension of the Earth's axis, and since it runs through the center of the pole openings, it exists in empty space, hence can never be discovered by any explorer since it is not on solid land. I also find it quite interesting that it is illegal for any airliner to fly over the North or South Pole, no matter how cost-effective and efficient it may be. Is there more to this story that they are not telling you? Another interesting question that the hollow Earth theory could answer is where and how are icebergs formed? Since icebergs are formed from fresh water, not salty ocean water, they could not be formed from the Arctic Ocean, but from some fresh body of water. However, there is no fresh body of water in the polar region. Reed's theory is that the icebergs are formed from the rivers coming from the interior of the Earth and flowing towards the surface through the polar opening. When they reach the cold exterior, they freeze, while more water passes over the frozen part and freezes as well, forming mountains of ice. With the coming of summer, these big masses of ice are thawed loose and break off, falling into the sea and producing the mysterious tidal waves observed in the far north. In the year 2014, scientists discovered an ocean 400 miles beneath our feet that could fill our oceans on the surface of this planet 3 times over. This discovery suggests the Earth's surface water actually came from within as part of the whole Earth water cycle, rather than the prevailing story of icy comets striking the Earth billions of years ago. If you do not believe in the hollow Earth theory, hollow Earth theorists are asking you to answer the following questions. Can you produce proof that any explorer reached the so-called North or South Pole? If there is no such thing as 83 to 90 degrees latitude on Earth, then how can one reach or fly over the North Pole? Why is it when there is an earthquake, the vibrations travel around the planet instead of through the planet? If the Earth is not hollow, then why does the north wind in the Arctic get warmer as one sails north beyond 70 degrees latitude? If the Earth is not hollow, then why do northerly winds carry more dust than any wind on Earth? If no rivers are flowing from inside to the outside, then why are all icebergs composed of fresh water? Why does one find tropical seeds, plants, and trees floating in fresh water of these icebergs? If these freshwater icebergs are not coming from within the planet, then where are they coming from? In the 1940s, the hollow Earth theory took an interesting turn, as it was adopted by the Nazi Thule Society through old Tibetan documents, as well as by Admiral Richard Byrd, who flew to the North and South Pole for the United States Navy, recording in his diary a tropical environment over the North Pole, including prehistoric animals. The credibility of this diary, though, is in question. For more information on the hollow Earth theory, you can simply go to the Library of Congress and type Hollow Earth, and hundreds of articles will pop up for you to investigate and do some history research. A lot of people ask me, why would you investigate such a wild theory? Well, ridicule without investigation is probably the largest form of ignorance. Listen to everyone, question everything, and don't believe it unless you can prove it with your own research. I'm Kristan T Harris and that Mystery School. Please check out the Rundown Live app. You can download it free on your cell phone or tablet, Google Play Store, iPhone App Store, Windows, or Amazon.com. You can get a lot of our past episodes and our daily radio program, therundownlive.com. Follow us on YouTube, find us on Facebook and Twitter. You guys have a good night, and make sure you guys check out my other episodes in this series.